I knew I was done the second HR misspelled my name for the third time in the same email thread. Not some typo either, no, this one had a whole new last name. Someone else's. Thanks for your patience, Marlene. My name's Mara. Has been for 47 years. I didn't correct it. What's the point? They don't listen, they just wait for you to stop talking. I've been in ops since Bush-era broadband. Back when invoices were still faxed and the servers wheezed like a dying coffee pot. 15 years, 3 CEOs, 6 restructurings, and a rotating door of boy wonders who called me ma'am before stealing my process maps and presenting them as their own. I trained half of them. The other half used my checklists and called it optimization. You think I ever got credit? Please. I wasn't flashy. Didn't wear the blazer dress combos or post humble brags on LinkedIn with too many exclamation points. I was the quiet one. The one who fixed things before they broke and remembered the names of every supplier's kid. I knew which vendor reps were secretly dating, which departments were using dummy POs to hide budget overages, and which executives were drunk at 3 p.m. every Thursday. But I didn't say a word. Not once. Because I knew patience had a price. And silence was my savings account. So I stayed. Watched one fresh out of grad school manager after another roll in with their vision and their buzzwords. Watched them bungle it, flail, panic. Then come to me when the Q2 numbers didn't add up. I fixed it. They got promoted. I got a mug. Once. It said team player. And still I stayed. Why? Because people underestimate the ones they think are boring. The ones who don't make noise. And eventually they start forgetting you're there. That's when you can see everything. Before we go on, do me a small favor, 97% of folks listen to these stories without subscribing. If you're enjoying this one, hit the like button and subscribe. It really does keep this going. Alright, back to the storm. They called me into HR on a Wednesday, 9:03 a.m. because of course it couldn't even wait till after coffee. They smiled like Botox mannequins, offered me a seat in a room that smelled like printer toner and lemon Lysol, and slid a single page across the desk. Due to departmental realignment and current market conditions, we're offering you the opportunity to continue with us at an adjusted salary. I read it twice. 55% pay cut. Not a typo. I didn't speak. Just looked at them, then back at the paper. I'd seen this coming. The junior execs had been whispering about budget efficiencies. One of them accidentally CC'd me on a memo about legacy staff redundancies. They thought I'd beg. Thought I'd cry. But I just said, I'll need a day to think. And they actually smiled like they'd won something. What they didn't know was that the moment I stepped out of that room, I wasn't thinking. I was remembering. Every favor. Every oversight. Every lie they wrapped in a policy memo. Because you don't survive 15 years in ops without learning how to weaponize a spreadsheet. And they were about to learn what it means to underestimate the girl who stayed. It was the kind of smile that made your skin crawl. Too many teeth, too much brightness for a room with 0 windows. They sat across from me like they were hosting a game show. Congratulations, Mara. You've been selected for our new poverty package. No heads up. No preamble. Just a manila envelope with my name spelled wrong again, and a single sheet inside. They didn't even try to sugarcoat it. As part of realignment initiatives, your compensation has been revised to align with departmental priorities. That's how they worded it. 55%. Gone. No performance issues listed. No missed targets. Just a quiet X in cursive font. I didn't flinch. Not even a muscle twitch. It's funny how HR assumes their little ambushes will break people. They think the silence means shock, that the stillness is surrender. But I've sat in union hearings. I've watched supervisors cry when inventory got flagged as revenue. I've been in the room when we found out the CFO's travel fund was actually an affair in Cabo. They think this is the first knife I've seen? Hell, I've cataloged the entire drawer. I lifted the paper like it was fragile. Read it once. Read it again. Carefully. Because I wanted to make sure I remembered every single word when I brought it to the people who would make them regret ever writing it. Across the table, the woman from HR smiled again, wider this time. She leaned forward like a friend on a bad soap opera. We really hope you'll consider staying with the team, she said, like we were deciding what to order for lunch. I locked eyes with her. My voice didn't rise, didn't shake. Just steady, measured. I'll need a day to think. She seemed surprised. Maybe even relieved. They thought they'd boxed me in. That I'd go home, cry into a microwaved burrito, and come crawling back with gratitude for the scraps. But what they didn't see, what they never saw, was that I'd already started calculating. Not just the insult of the offer, but the stupidity of thinking I was isolated. Forgotten, maybe, but not without options. Because the thing about being overlooked for years? You build connections in the cracks. Relationships the shiny ones never notice. Favors you never cash in, until the timing's just right. And I'd waited long enough. They assumed the power was in their hands because they held the envelope. But they forgot who wrote the SOPs, who signed off on vendor approvals, who watched their little schemes grow legs while everyone else chased quarterly bonuses. I folded the paper neatly and slid it back into the envelope, walked out without a word. And while they celebrated what they thought was a win, smug in their little power play, I went home, poured a glass of the cheap red I keep for special occasions, and pulled out an old phone from my kitchen drawer. The one with a single contact worth more than every smug little email they'd ever CC'd me on. Because I wasn't angry about the money. I was furious they thought I had to accept it. That old phone was practically fossilized, still had a cracked OtterBox case with a sticker peeling off that read "I break for data integrity." It smelled faintly of printer toner and stress sweat from 2014. I plugged it in using a charger I had to dig out from behind the fridge. It blinked awake like it had unfinished business. And it did. In that phone was one number. No social media. No cloud sync. No distractions. Just one damn number that I'd never deleted, even when it hurt to keep it. Erin Hale. Back then, she was just a regional account lead for one of our biggest logistics vendors. Brilliant, ruthless, and always 2 moves ahead. We used to joke we were the same kind of problem, quiet, underestimated, and very good at memorizing which throats to cut when the music stopped. We got along. Then the company axed the contract and blamed the vendor. Erin got burned. I stayed. She walked into Raxon Corp 6 months later and never looked back. And now? She was VP. At our biggest competitor. I hadn't spoken to her in 7 years. Not a holiday card, not a comment on LinkedIn. But the moment I saw that 55% figure on the paper, I knew. It was time. I sat at my kitchen table with the hum of the fridge behind me, and the taste of that cheap red wine going sour on my tongue. I stared at her name on the screen for 5 long minutes. Then I pressed call. 2 rings. Mara. Her voice hadn't changed. Still calm. Still sharp as glass. I was wondering when you'd call, she said. We've been watching. She didn't mean just me. She meant all of it. The financial juggling act my company had been doing since the market dip. The quiet vendor purges. The exec reshufflings that smelled like desperation in a navy suit. I got your envelope, I said. They made you eat the cut, she asked. I laughed. They tried. Pause. Then. Tell me what you want. I looked around my apartment, the same one I'd had since the first round of layoffs in '09. Still had sticky cabinet doors and the kind of radiator that sounded like it was haunted. I want to move. Quietly. Precisely. She didn't even hesitate. Then let's begin. And just like that, the entire weight I'd been dragging for years snapped loose. They thought I was stuck. That I'd become part of the furniture. Creaky, outdated, impossible to replace but too boring to promote. What they didn't realize was that I'd been watching too. Watching as Erin rebuilt what we used to dream about. Watching as my own company rotted from the inside, smiling all the while. They thought silence was surrender. But silence is also the sound before a trigger is pulled. And I was done waiting. I showed up Thursday like nothing had happened. Wore the same scuffed flats. Brought in that same dented travel mug that said, "Running late is my cardio." Smiled at everyone like I hadn't just spent the night plotting quiet annihilation. That's the thing about being overlooked for so long. You get real good at acting harmless. They thought I was coming in to reconsider. That I'd blink. That I'd buckle. What I did instead was open a folder I'd kept hidden inside a shared drive labeled Q3 Supply Chain Cleanup, which no one had clicked on since 2018. In it were every flagged discrepancy, every audit I'd quietly logged and saved, every invoice that smelled like it had been run through a laundromat. Not because I was paranoid. Because I knew they'd eventually come for me. Knew I'd need the receipts. First thing I did was triple-check vendor renewals. Turns out 2 of our preferred partners were ghost accounts run by a shell LLC. Payments went out monthly, just under the threshold for manual review. That trail led to a regional manager's cousin's company. Nice. Then I pulled the staff incident logs. You'd think those would be secure. But no, someone had mislabeled them as facilities notes. What I found was a string of informal HR concerns about toxic leads. 3 incidents of verbal abuse swept under interpersonal miscommunication, and 1 confirmed sexual harassment complaint marked resolved without an investigation. I copied everything. Encrypted backups. USB with air gap security. Multiple folders, each with a sweet little bow of timestamps and internal sign-offs. And the cherry on top? Discount abuse. Our regional VP had been approving custom pricing for priority clients, slashing contract values by 20 to 30% to hit quarterly sales targets and pad his bonus. But those contracts weren't approved by finance. They weren't entered by finance. He was routing them through an old decommissioned procurement tool that only 2 people still had access to. I was one of them, so I flagged them. Silently. Logged it all. Built a report so clean even a congressional hearing would applaud. By Friday afternoon I had 4 folders. Staff misconduct, vendor irregularities, pricing manipulation, and compliance exposure. I didn't want revenge. Not really. Revenge is messy. Loud. Loud gets you caught. What I wanted was leverage. And now I had it. Enough to make even legal sweat through their suit jackets. Because I wasn't coming to them broken. I was coming to them armed. And when the time came to walk, I wouldn't be knocking. I'd be announcing. They called at 4:17 like clockwork. Right before weekend mode kicked in. When the office starts smelling like reheated pizza and everyone pretends to still be working, while they're really just alt-tabbing between LinkedIn and airline sites. The same HR rep who slid the knife across the desk on Wednesday now sounded sweet as pie over the phone. Hi Mara. Just circling back. Have you had a chance to consider the offer? The offer. Like it was a gift. Like I was supposed to unwrap my own dignity and say thank you for the privilege of being gutted. I didn't bother with fake pleasantries. Just said, I have. Pause. She waited. Wonderful, she said. Already punching some checkbox on whatever exit interview software they use to pretend they care. So you'll be staying on? No, I said. I'll be stepping out. I walked to her office 5 minutes later. The same office where they'd handed me the envelope like I was getting a birthday card and not a slow-rolling guillotine. She stood when I came in. Probably thought I was there to plead for adjustments, negotiate scraps. I slid the letter across her desk. Neatly printed, signed in ink. She didn't read it at first. Just stared at the envelope like she expected it to explode. Then her eyes scanned the first sentence and froze on the last line. Please direct all inquiries to my new employer. Raxon Corp Legal. Her face did a thing like a muscle spasm and a panic attack tried to high-five inside her skull. No handshake, I said. No counteroffer. I turned to leave. She called after me, voice suddenly tight. Mara, we'd really prefer. I stopped. Turned halfway. You preferred a lot of things. So did I. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't dramatize it. That's what they never understood. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers with receipts. And I had a drawer full. Every memo. Every discount scheme. Every fake apology and backdated signature. All of it. Tidy. Chronological. Backed up in 3 locations and already scanned by Raxon Corp Legal. They thought I'd walk out crying. Or maybe bitter. But I didn't feel any of that. I felt done. The way a surgeon feels after stitching up their last patient of the day, calm, focused, unshakably certain they did the job right. And when I walked out that front door, I didn't look back. Because storms don't explain themselves. They just arrive. It dropped at exactly 9 a.m. Monday morning. Not a leak. Not a whisper campaign. A full-page press release, glossy and corporate approved, complete with my name in bold and a title that made the blood drain from every exec's face at my former office. Regional Director of Logistics Compliance, Raxon Corp. The email went out to partners, clients, vendors, industry boards, even a couple newswire services for flavor. The quote beneath my name was short, almost surgical. We're excited to welcome Mara Lang to the team. Her unparalleled operational insight and deep familiarity with competitor frameworks will bring immense value to our strategic vision. They knew exactly what they were doing. By 9:17, my inbox was filling up. Not from old coworkers, those would come later, full of emojis and cautious congratulations. No, these were client-side, procurement managers, logistics leads, vendor reps who had worked with me behind the curtain for over a decade. Mara, congrats. Curious to know how Raxon is positioning compliance going forward. Glad to see you land where you're valued. Any chance we could discuss your onboarding strategy? Translation. What do you know, and how much of it is now leverage against the place you left? By noon, one of our former flagship clients had a conference call scheduled with Raxon's executive suite. The timing wasn't a coincidence. That client had just renewed with my old company 3 months ago. Under a discounted rate they'd offered to lock in loyalty. But loyalty has a shelf life. And now I was sitting in a clean, glassless office at Raxon, sipping coffee that didn't taste like burnt plastic, watching the dominoes line up. I didn't gloat. Didn't need to. Because vindication doesn't scream. It sits back and lets the calls come in. My new team was sharp. Hungry. Young but not arrogant. They asked questions. Took notes. Didn't interrupt. They saw value in my systems not as a backup plan but as the plan. I walked them through the blind spots I'd mapped back at my old job. Non-compliant routing, underreported logistics delays, vendor audits that were accidentally postponed for 3 quarters straight. I told them everything. Not because I wanted revenge, but because Raxon paid attention. Because they asked. The press release had only one quote from me. I wrote it myself. I've always believed the best logistics run quietly. Until they don't. I'm here to make sure the quiet parts don't become costly ones. No swipes. No jabs. Just enough to rattle the right cages. And rattle they did. An ex-coworker texted me later that day. Did you see the group Slack? They're losing it. Another sent a screenshot of an emergency meeting. Invite titled, Client Retention Strategy Review. Turns out being underestimated is a great way to move unseen. Until you choose to be seen. And when you do, you don't have to say a word. You just sit in the announcement. And let the silence do the work. By Wednesday, the building was humming like a beehive someone had just kicked. Slack threads went dark. Meetings were rescheduled with subject lines like, urgent. Follow-up required. Nobody said anything out loud, but the eyes said it all. Paranoia. Guilt. Fear wearing a company lanyard. Started with a leak. Not from me, I didn't have to. All I'd done was trigger the inevitable. Raxon's PR buzz made enough noise to shake the weak nails loose. Someone inside forwarded an email thread to a junior analyst, who forwarded it to her husband, who just so happened to be a moderator on a local business watchdog subreddit. The subject line? Compensation tier justifications. Non-executives only. Inside was a spreadsheet. Color-coded. Sanitized but not enough. It detailed every performance-based pay adjustment handed down over the last 18 months. It wasn't just me. There were dozens of us. Admins, analysts, coordinators, people who held entire departments together with duct tape and caffeine. All of us labeled non-essential budget exposure. Cutbacks ranging from 15% to 60%. And on the last tab, almost poetically, sat the executive bonus approvals. Not one reduction. In fact, several had increased. One VP received a $38,000 discretionary retention bonus the same week I got handed the envelope. By lunchtime, people weren't whispering. They were walking out of meetings mid-slide deck. Someone printed the spreadsheet and left it on every copier tray. HR locked down the printers. Too late. I got a text from an old coworker around 2 p.m. Did you hear? Marcus from Ops got walked out. Security and everything. Marcus was the same executive who once joked in a quarterly wrap-up. We've got dead weight in this department, but don't worry, we're trimming it. Everyone laughed. I didn't. Now he was the one getting trimmed. Legal issued a memo by 3:30. All internal compensation documents are considered confidential and subject to disciplinary review. Classic panic move. It did nothing. The next morning, HR sent out a department-wide apology. Not a personal one. Not a call. Just an email full of soft language and corporate band-aids. We acknowledge recent decisions may have caused confusion or concern. We value every member of our team and are working to rebuild trust. Translation: please don't unionize or talk to reporters. Too late for that too. One of the women from procurement forwarded me the email with a single line. This smells like fear. Good work. But it wasn't about fear. Not for me. It was about finally watching them learn that silence was never approval. It was archiving. And the moment they handed me that envelope, I stopped saving their mistakes for later and started using them. They thought they'd erased me. All they did was make space for the truth to echo. I didn't come to Raxon for revenge. I came to build something better. But damn if it didn't feel good knowing I'd taken their favorite rug with me. And underneath it was nothing but rotten wires duct taped together by people who thought leadership meant memorizing buzzwords and drinking their coffee black. My first month was a blur of clarity. I wasn't buried under useless meetings or forced to defend my existence to board executives. No, here? People listened. When I spoke in the strategy room, heads turned. Not because I raised my voice. I never had to. It was because what I said mattered. My first act was simple. Necessary. Quietly radical. I created a safe exit protocol. A backchannel pipeline for employees stuck in toxic companies like the one I left. Anonymous intake. Raxon-back referral guarantees, resume support with no HR red tape. I even set up a fund for those who needed a financial bridge to make the leap. We called it Phase 0. Within 2 weeks, 3 women from my old department reached out. None of them said it directly, but I knew the look in their eyes, wide and tired, like they'd been holding their breath for years and just realized air still existed. My second act? Vendors. I still had every contact, every handshake memory from 15 years of doing work no one thanked me for. But I remembered who delivered on time, who paid fair, who made last-minute runs on snow days and didn't gouge the price. Raxon had been trying to court 3 of them for years. They never responded. Until I called. All 3 signed on within 10 days. And then came Act 3. The campaign. See, I still had access to the pricing models my old company used. The undercut contracts. The one-time adjustment deals handed out to land desperate renewals. The same contracts I'd had to clean up after quarter. So I built a team, 3 analysts, 2 copywriters, and a designer with a grudge against Helvetica. We launched a strategic awareness push, aimed at every one of their clients who'd ever been offered a loyalty discount. Not slander. Not accusations. Just facts. Charts. Case studies. A clean surgical takedown of their entire underpricing model. Within a month, 5 clients requested exploratory calls. 2 jumped ship. I wasn't cheering. I wasn't dancing on anyone's grave. I was building finally freely. They thought I was just a cog. But cogs remember. Cogs know how the machine fits together and where it breaks. At Raxon, I didn't just get a title. I got agency. Respect. They gave me the pen. And I didn't burn their house down. I rewrote the floor plan. Then I built something so solid they couldn't copy it even if they tried. 'Cause I didn't just walk away. I walked ahead. And this time I made damn sure the door behind me didn't stay open. Every Thursday morning, like clockwork, my route to the Raxon campus takes me down Halston Avenue. Right past the old building. The one with the mirrored windows and badge access doors that once locked me inside a box so tight, I nearly forgot who I was. It always looks the same from the outside. Stale. Glossy. Polished like a lie. Sometimes I glance up as I pass the east side 3rd floor, left corner. That used to be me. Head down. Fixing what others broke. Getting thanked with awkward nods or, if I was lucky, a coupon for coffee that expired 2 weeks ago. But I never stop. There's nothing in that building I need anymore. Not validation. Not vengeance. Just distance. The me who sat at that window doesn't exist anymore. My office now. No glass. No hierarchy so fragile it has to see you to believe in you. Just clean walls. Clear goals. And a door that opens without someone pretending they don't remember your name. I've got a team that respects results, not appearances. They don't ask me to smile more. They don't circle back just to waste time. They bring problems because they know I'll fix them, not take the credit and pass the blame. And on my desk, right where I can see it every morning, is a single frame. Black. Simple. No embellishments. Inside it, that original pay cut letter. Still misprinted. Still insulting. I had it printed on archival quality paper. Let it wrinkle just a little so the ink smudged where I held it the day they handed it to me like a mercy. People ask sometimes why I keep it. Why I'd want a reminder. I tell them it's not a reminder. It's a receipt. Of everything I gave. Of everything they didn't see. Of how wrong they were. Because they thought silence meant surrender. That I had no claws because I didn't roar. But I didn't need to roar. I just needed to move. And I did. One letter. One call. One step at a time. Now they sit in crisis meetings wondering where it all went wrong. And I sit in strategy sessions building systems they'll never understand because they never understood me. They offered me a pay cut. I gave them a case study on who not to underestimate. No headlines. No lawsuits. No revenge parade. Just a woman they tried to erase, becoming the blueprint for everything they'll never reach. And that's enough.